On the 17th day of aircraft, we have an empty SPH, but not for long. So I'm going to start off today by looking at some failures. As you can guess by looking at this is based on the A3K Sky Tanker, and this was an earlier variant of it. I don't remember if this exact design... No, the wings are different. Actually, I don't remember... Oh yeah, because the wings have a rear slant on them. Let me just open this up myself just so I can remember my own things. So you can see that the wing root is a swept wing type B, but then I switched to the structural wing type B, which is kind of funny that they're both type Bs even though they're different. But my point is that this hinge I wanted at an angle, and so the original design that just used two of these was not going to work for that idea. So this craft spawned a lot of work in progress, like variations and whatnot, and I'm just going to go over those real quick before I go on to today's star. And so you saw the other variation, and this was another earlier variation on trying to get the wing shape right. It was very difficult for me to find a way to make this wing shape that I was happy with. But I also had some difficulty with designing the nose of the aircraft, so this is one of the design attempts that just was way too narrow. And the reason I'm showing these is so that you can possibly get some ideas for alternate designs if you wanted to do something that was inspired by this, but not the same thing. So you can see this version has a pretty nice conformal shape to it, but at the same time just wasn't right for my purposes, so it could still be useful for another craft, just not for that one. And again, another variant that I worked on was putting a Mark 1 inline up here with a bit of a tiny fuselage backing like I've done on multiple variants. And then I thought about, wait a second, the Mark 2 inline cockpit would work better potentially here. And so this is one of the earliest variants working on that design. And that's about everything for that. So right now I'm going to show you the XF-92, which is just a basic replica of an experimental fighter that was made in the US when they were like, let's do the supersonics, we need better supersonics. This has a fat ass and very small wings, although I believe I made them a bit bigger. Yeah, quite a bit bigger by the fact that they're clipped inwards, so this does give more lift than it should. However, this is the thing. I swear I had something more interesting to say there, but I just don't remember what it was. Oh, and apparently I do not have an action group set up for the afterburner. Maybe because I was intending to have this not have an afterburner, but in that case, why did I use a Panther? Because I typically only use the Panther if I'm going to have the afterburner enabled. This plane is designed to go fast after all, it's not designed to do much else. Ooh, something wasn't happy with the way I left the ground just then. You can see there's some stuff laying around. You might have noticed that that says it's a recovery barge. That's for another project that I can't wait to show you. There's another one out here, but again, I'm not going to fully show you that yet. But let's just say I have done some exciting things. You can see this goes to a quite decent speed quite quickly. I don't remember exactly how well it performs maneuvers, or how quickly it'll make a Kerbal pass out, but let's find out. So fortunately in that particular case, it looks like it made the Kerbal pass out, but did not kill the plane. I have made designs that you can make them quite quickly, quite easily kill the plane. I'm going to go ahead and engage the after... Actually, no, I'm not. I was going to, but instead I'm just going to use time warp. And you know what? Whoa. Tiniest roll adjustment while at time warp. Just do a full 360. Obviously that is entirely what I intended to do. I'm actually going to cut the throttle entirely now. And you can see that this will maintain the speed quite well. In fact, yeah, let's go ahead and turn. Oh, I tried to turn just a tiny bit just as it loaded in. And we'll give you a little sneak preview on this. The eagle-eyed among you will notice something interesting there, but maybe not everyone. And you know what? Since we're at the island airfield, why not attempt a landing here? This has very strong roll control because of course it only has two control surfaces for combined control authority of the pitch and yaw. I'm actually going to go around because this thing Actually has a very good amount of lift, so you can see I'm flying it at a quite low speed without issue, but obviously that was not lined up very well for a landing. I'm actually going to go ahead and throttle up to give us more ability to pull a ridiculous maneuver without quite stalling the plane and dying. Well, it looks like it flies surprisingly well, even at 40 meters per second. I actually wasn't expecting that, although thinking closer about just how much clipped wing this particular design has, it shouldn't be that surprising. That said, we are about to... Okay, never mind. I thought we were about to fall off the... not be able to reach the approach properly. And touchdown, and engage the brakes. And... there we go. Very gently, very nicely gonna come to a stop there, except I'm not actually going to have it come to a stop right now because I'm actually going to go park this in the hangar next to the other craft that is there so that I can show you that we have another craft here. Oh dear. Let's try not to... Well, shit. There we go. It's fine. Just turn very gently with this craft, because else things go badly. And some of you might recognize that we have an F-5 parked here next to it. Or rather, that we're parking next to an F-5. It may not be the best replica of an F-5, but I'm definitely happier with it than my previous attempts at making an F-5. So we'll show you that next. Now, normally when I get inspired by someone else's design on the Kerbal X, I like to credit them. This one, I forgot whose design gave me this inspiration. Sorry, my brain is not forming the words quickly enough either, which is why my speech patterns are a bit off. But they made something that they didn't call it an F-5, but they made something that was very similar to this, that is very obviously inspired by an F-5. And one of my favorite things about it is just how smoothly the fuselage blends into these twin engine nacelles on the back here, and how the overall wing shape is a very specific smooth shape that I feel very much complements the design of this fighter and just looks really nice. And I decided I wanted to make my own variant, and of course it has a drop tank which carries quite a good chunk of extra fuel. I've actually taken one of these all the way to the desert runway from the KSC. I don't know what its exact range is, but I have been doing more flying in KSP while testing designs and not as much just designing them and then leaving them alone. I've been flying a bit more. Now, because I forgot what I said literally 5 seconds ago, I did remember just now who made this design, or rather, I remember how to find them on Kerbal X, so I will link in the description to their version, their variant. Tried to say variant and version at the same time, it didn't go so well. I believe that's another one of these F5s. Yeah, I kind of littered these around the place because I found this... Oops. That actually really startled me. Well, we don't need that anymore then. Let's just pull up. I actually found these incredibly fun to fly, and they're very stable, and so I've flown a bunch of these around recently just because... Let me disconnect that. Just because they've just been a real joy to fly. So like I turned off the SAS right now to demonstrate that. You can see it does want to go down a little bit on its own, but it performs maneuvers very smoothly. You can see that as I do this barrel roll, it maintains control quite well. Loses a tiny touch of stability there in the end of that maneuver, but not much. You can see it generally follows exactly where I want it to go, and if I was flying with my joystick connected, I'm sure I could fly this very smoothly, very gently, very enjoyably without SAS needing to be enabled at all. There is a slight difficulty that can be encountered with the drop tank, as it has extremely low ground clearance, as you just saw on this takeoff. It did blow up immediately. Not immediately, but basically I pulled up a little bit without pulling up enough to actually take off, and that caused enough movement in the suspension to cause the, well, to cause the tank to touch the ground and explode. So you can see there's another one right there. And I don't remember if I've successfully landed this with a drop tank still attached, or if I would recommend... Well, I definitely would recommend against doing that. I just don't remember whether I have successfully done it or not, and like I'm just saying don't do it because it's a bad idea, or if I also haven't actually been able to do it. So we're going to do something rather silly right now since I'm demonstrating that this can fly at a pretty low speed. It can fly at a much lower speed than it can take off at, but the rear landing gear are just far enough back that it does need a little bit more speed to take off. Center of mass is right about here. It's another design where I managed to use up all of the fuel tanks. I'm getting better about that recently. I did have a lot of designs where, in order to balance the center of mass between fueled and unfueled, I didn't have that go quite according to plan. But as you can see, that went quite well. I'm going to go ahead and recover this version as well. I don't know why I left it out there. It kind of just was cluttering space. And I'm just quickly going to go through another flight right now to demonstrate that you can take off perfectly safe with this aircraft with the drop tank without it colliding. You can have a rather smooth takeoff as well. I don't remember what speed I'd recommend taking off at. I'm going to guess around 70 meters per second, which is what I'm aiming for right now. So you can see it lifts off very gently, and if you just kind of align the drop tank to be nearly center, you have just about the right angle of attack for your takeoff speed, and then you start to climb. And of course the climb is slower at first, but then increases. Obviously if I time warp, the nose does drop a little bit, which is why I'm increasing my time warp very slowly here. But as you can see, we can quickly get up to a decent speed and decent distance. And I'm actually going to go ahead and turn around now, and like I said, I'm going to attempt to demonstrate a landing with the drop tank still attached, as I believe that should be possible. Not entirely certain, because I haven't done it, but I don't think there's any reason it shouldn't be possible. I mean, it'll be difficult. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it'll be difficult. You might break it, but I think it'll be possible. And if I can do it right now in the video, then I think it's worth, you know, being like, okay, you can do this. But if I can't manage to do it right now, then I'm gonna say definitely do not do this, because if I can't manage it right now, it's a more difficult feat, and I would not recommend it. Almost. Almost. A little bit too bouncy there, and unfortunately that did us in. Another thing to do is enable steering so that you can maneuver on the ground. And fortunately this craft has a fairly wide stance landing gear, especially for being such a small craft, so it is very nimble on the ground as well, which is another reason I'm happy with it. Let's drop the rest of that fuel tank. We don't need it anymore. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in space.